It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Very proud of how we pitched and how we played defense on a day where we had to play 18 innings of baseball. You got to pitch and defend the field, and we did a great job of that. And I thought we swung the bats much better today. Did a good job of hitting with runners in scoring position, had some big hits with runners on base, used the long ball in the first game today, and overall got good at bats from everybody in the lineup, played good baseball, and won the series.
We got to get TJ and Matty back in the lineup. They're two of our best hitters, and Noah. We're missing three guys on our top 10 team, and I mean, they got three of the best starters in the country on the mound. I think we held our own in the box. But, yeah, we definitely got to get those guys back in the lineup, and I think we've done decent.
I feel like that putt I made on 17 and, to basically keep my one-up lead going in the last, and to have that iron shot not come down the hill on 18, knowing that it's probably the fastest putt on the golf course. It's just another one of those mini tests that I had to try to get over in order to win my first major.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Monday after another fabulous weekend in the sports world, from the Masters to college baseball to Major League Baseball. The Braves, all of a sudden, becoming a pretty decent team, I would say. The Mets, the Mutts, doing all right to open up the season. The Yankees, not so much.
I don't remember what losing feels like anymore. It's kind of weird.
Wow.
You'll figure it out sooner or later.
Yeah, it's probably gonna happen.
And let's see. We got the NBA playoffs right around the corners. We got so many good things to talk about. Welcome into Sports Talk on this Monday night. Folk Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes from downtown Columbia with Brian Leonard as our co-star. 800-956-7266. Jump on board. Love to hear from you tonight. Over the weekend, Clemson success up at Notre Dame. USC not successful at Kentucky. Kind of a week to forget if you're a member of the USC pitching staff. Boy, they gave up, 35 runs, 36 hits, 25 walks in their 4 games.
It's the story of the year, man. I mean, I swear, guys putting the ball in play, and the free 90 has been their bugaboo. It was their bugaboo against North Carolina. It even befell them a little bit in the Tennessee series. And when you think about going up against Kentucky, especially in a series after you look so starkly different on Saturday versus the way they looked on Friday, to come back on Sunday and revert to that Friday form, it can't be anything more than just a discouraging weekend for Mark Kingston's club.
Yeah, doesn't get any easier. They go to Arkansas Pro beginning on Thursday, so they're taking their lumps right now. They had a little ray of hope there after the Tennessee series, and I mean, certainly this is a team that with the injuries is not deep enough, not good enough to overcome the loss of 3 everyday players who would provide some punch in their lineup.
A few can, by the way. A few of them can.
But this is the slowest start for South Carolina. I went back and traced it. You have to go back to I think it was like 96 to find a 30 game. This was before they completed the weekend. Through the first 30 games, they haven't been this poor record wise since I think it was 96. So this is unusual territory for USC baseball. The question is, can they dig out of it and have a strong finish to this second half and make some hay in the SEC tournament?
This is one of the reasons I pay attention to a lot of teams. Some teams, they change coaches and it's instantaneous. Others, and I think probably to the good, it's almost stronger when you do it this way, is when you have injuries and you have your team feeling sorry for themselves and also learning what their new coaches want done. That is a tough first season. And then you have to come out of it. And a lot of it, people say, well, so-and-so didn't recruit that well. No, they got talent on that team. The key is this is psychological right now. And you got to shake yourself collectively as a team out of that funk to have some success. And they've shown signs of doing it, but then they walk a couple of batters and then it freaks them out and their mind goes, here we go again. And sometimes just as winning becomes a habit, losing can be habitual as well.
You just have to give yourself a chance to win. And I think there are games where they've done that. I mean, there are games where they've been just beaten. You know, they gave themselves a chance to win, but there have been other games where they just haven't even given themselves a chance, and that happened in 2 out of the 3 games this weekend.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you go back to even go back to the North Carolina game. Of course, they were in that game until the 8th inning.
And that one wasn't one of those. That one wasn't one of those.
Still, it's a 9-inning game. You got to play through the 9th inning, if not longer, and they couldn't close the door against North Carolina's offense with their pitching. And then they go to Kentucky. They get hammered on the Friday night, and they turn around. They hammer Kentucky on Saturday, and then Sunday's game was up for grabs for a little while. Then it got away from them. So this is tough for South Carolina. I mean, Gamecock fans aren't used to, at this stage of the season, 32 games in, 24 games left, 18-14. I mean, they're hovering just barely above 500. And that's not going to get you very far in the postseason unless you go through and win the SEC tournament. Next up for the Gamecocks, a trip to the Citadel. The Bulldogs are 12-19. They play at Joe Riley Park tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Meantime, Clemson coming off a weekend in which they take 2 out of 3 from Notre Dame up in frigid South Bend. I watched some of that. They looked like they were miserably cold up there.
And all of that,
it just looked terrible. Tigers are now 10-5 in the ACC, 25-7 overall. In terms of the rankings this week, it's Clemson and Coastal still in the rankings. The Tigers are number 3 by collegiate baseball, 8 by the coaches, 8 by Perfect Game, 11 by D1 baseball, and Coastal 17 by Baseball America, 21 by the coaches, 24 in D1 baseball, and 29 in collegiate baseball. The RPI has Clemson at 5, Coastal 22, Charleston at 45, USC at 69, Furman 88, Wofford 109, Winthrop 165, Citadel 259, Upstate 260, Charleston Southern 263, and Presbyterian 269.
You can't forget about our friends at Winthrop. They apparently took some exception to that earlier today.
Yeah, I was putting that list together and I was thinking to myself, who am I forgetting? Who am I forgetting? And it was Winthrop.
Sorry,
Rock. I was just actually testing them to see if they were paying attention, and they obviously were. But Clemson this past weekend getting the 2 out of 3 against Notre Dame. We're going to talk to Monty Lee here at 6:30. I got to believe that he'll feel good about a couple of things. Number one, getting Meredith finally into the lineup.
Dude, how much different does that lineup look with him? And he was an immediate impact, 4 for 10 on the weekend, on base percentage of .571. If you get him on base in front of, Davidson and Beer and all those guys, that only makes a very potent lineup that much more serious.
Yeah, it's like making a midseason trade.
Yes.
And coming up with a new weapon for your offense. And then Higginbotham gave him a good outing in the third game of the series yesterday. That had to be encouraging to see his performance and get him back on the winning side.
If I'm Monty Lee, the biggest thing coming out of this series is the fact that, after that first game, I think Clemson just decided, okay, fine. Okay, you're going to make us play in this ice box. We're going to beat you in this ice box, because they could have gotten psyched out. As I said before, it really gets me nervous when I see players swinging bats, and especially pitchers, especially if they're breaking ball pitchers, throwing in frigid weather. What can that be doing to their arms?
And I don't mean to make a large encompassing critique of Jacob Hennessy, but there's been last couple of these Friday night starts where he's been kind of off, so to speak, and I'm wondering how that will affect them going forward, whether or not Monty Lee makes a change, maybe goes with Crawford on Friday or something like that. I don't know if he has the makeup to be a Friday night starter, but you know what? He obviously showed them enough, not only during the fall, but in the offseason, just trying to at least reestablish that staff, which had lost all that pitching from last year.
Take a look at the standings in the ACC after this past weekend, and Clemson is hanging in there in second place in their division, just behind NC State, which has risen all the way to number 2 in the rankings. NC State's 11-4, 25-6. Clemson a game back, but of course NC State has the tiebreaker. 10-5 for the Tigers. Florida State's 8-7. On the other side, Duke is 10-4. North Carolina is 8-5. In the SEC East, it's Florida 9-3, Georgia 8-4, USC's 5-7. With Tennessee and Kentucky all tied for 5th in the East. Arkansas, the team USC will face next, 8-4, leading the West. We'll be right back.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
We are back, Sports Talk, on a Monday night, Monday after the Masters, here on Sports Talk, 800-956, not to steal the name of an outing in Myrtle Beach today, Monday after the Masters, which actually began, of course, at Spring Valley Country Club in Columbia before it grew so big. And then Hootie and his people, Darius Rucker and all those guys got involved, and they moved it to the beach and grew it even bigger and made it even more successful, raising a bunch of money for junior golf and other worthwhile causes. So this is Monday after the Masters, and Boy, what a great day. What a great weekend of watching everything happening at Augusta. Patrick Reed, on the one hand, he's just a novel waiting to be written because he's got the success story, but he's got the baggage and the sad story that people all want to read and hear about. The accident waiting to happen with the family feud and the indiscretions that he had while he was in college and the accusations of cheating in golf and things of that nature. Yet, all of that aside, he's a hell of a golfer. He showed it a couple of years ago in the Ryder Cup, and he certainly stared down everybody, knowing that when he got to the 18th, the 72nd yesterday, the reception was not going to be Phil-like or Tiger-like or Rory-like. It was going to be somewhat subdued, which I guess it was. It sounded that way a little bit over television. Still, he made the putts when he had to make them, the key shots. He held it together, and he can't take it away from him. He didn't cheat. He's the Masters champion.
Don't the fans now love guys with warts? I think some of them do. Hey, and now, at least we know he has warts. We won't idolize him and then put him up on a pedestal and then find out the warts later.
I think you're mistaking fans like a redemption story. That's why so many fans have rallied behind Tiger. You mentioned that he has baggage. He's got more oversized baggage than you could basically have allowed onto a cruise ship. He has more things, and I've read probably more about this guy than I've had any golfer in a post-round or a post-tournament fashion than I probably ever have, just because the more and more you peel behind this guy's onion, the more fascinating it is. And it goes down to, the estrangement with his family, which, again, I feel is invasive, but at the same time, I think speaks to more of what has happened to this guy in his life and why he's kind of taken a bunker mentality and a me against the world mentality. And, he recognized that his reception at the first tee at the 18th tee was not going to be the same, but he used that and channeled it. And I think back to the shot on 12, the birdie putt on 12 at Amen Corner, the way that he showed his emotion there and he said, come on. That reminds me of a tennis match or somebody, making a big shot to make a break or something like that. That was just such an unfurling of emotion. I feel like he expounded more emotion there than he did on 18 because he knew at that point, he knew the tournament was his.
How about the knee knocker he had knocked on 18? You grow up, you play. He's from Texas, but he played 2 years at Augusta State, won 2 national championships. But like any golfer who makes it to that level as a kid, and he idolized Tiger Woods, and he followed Tiger Woods' career as a youngster, even practiced in Texas at some of the same places that Tiger did. You grow up dreaming of having a 2 or 3 footer to win the Masters. And of course, we've seen some of them miss it left, miss it right, leave it short. He hit it right in the middle of the
Sergio had one last year, too.
Well, and Spieth, golf's version of the fast break, because I know Reed could feel some hot breath around his neck, but he did not shy away from his golf game and take unnecessary chances. Now, was it hole 13 when that thing just held on to the slope? It could have gone into the drink, and you saw everybody just.
Yeah, I think the putt he made before that, and then that shot led you to believe that this was going to be his day.
And
even though you give Ricky Fowler a lot of credit for closing strong and putting himself in position to make it drama-like at the end,
and even the decision to lay up, on the 1 par 5 there on the back 9, where he wanted to try and take the shot, maybe go for it in 2, and his caddy calmed him down and said, "You know what? No, you have the lead. Be patient." And it's just that kind of trust where you basically. It's so much more a psychological test than anything that we talk about in sports.
Yeah, and of course you had Spieth closing with his great round of 64, standing on the doorstep of history, trying to become the first 63 on a Sunday at the Masters and running in one long putt after another. It was just a great day and a great finish. You saw, some golfers make the move. You saw other golfers kind of come apart, but at the end of the day, Reed held it together. And, he's been estranged from his family since 2012. It was at the Open a couple of years ago where he had them removed from the gallery. And there's just a big issue there going back to when they all lived together when he moved in after leaving University of Georgia. It's not been resolved. And I guess this is his in your face moment back to them, considering where those feelings apparently are.
It's sad though. I mean, you mentioned the piece to me by Alan Shipnuck, and there have been a couple pieces that have come out since then about his parents wanting some sort of reconciliation and wanting to be a part of this. And it's sad. You don't wish that for anybody. I think you wish some sort of resolution. There's been some bad blood back and forth. There's been some things said by those connected to him too that have gone back and forth and crossed swords. And you hope it ends up in a positive manner, because again, I don't think there's room for any of that, especially when it comes down to people who seem sincere enough. And like I said, I don't want to feel invasive and try to inject ourselves in a situation. But to me, it seems like I think the best for all involved is eventually a positive resolution.
And now we turn our attention to the RBC Heritage, number 50. Believe it or not, number 50. Arnie won the first one. And the tournament continues to thrive now with the strong support of RBC and Boeing and others. And things got rained out today, opening ceremonies and all that kind of stuff. I think they did play. The plan was to play their Pro-Am.
They did.
And so things will move forward now. The golfers will be on the course, practice rounds and all of that. And Will's going to draw the assignment of covering the Heritage for us this year. He'll be heading down on Thursday. Tomorrow, you're heading to the new ballpark in North Augusta.
Very much looking forward to that. Clemson and Georgia, first of 2 weeks that they'll be playing midweek games. They'll play once in North Augusta and then once up at Foley Field in Athens. But that brand new ballpark is going to get its first little dry run before the Green Jackets have their home opener later on this week.
All right, couple of other notes for you. The Southern Conference Player of the Week is Furman infielder Jared Mihalik. Had a big week. He also was named a National Player of the Week by Collegiate Baseball. On the week, he had 8 hits, 9 RBIs, and 4 home runs.
All in consecutive games. That is a Furman school record.
Former USC basketball player Corey Holden is headed to play his last year at South Alabama.
The Jaguars.
Reported over the weekend by ESPN's people. He's going to play for former Clemson assistant Richie Riley.
I feel bad that his career took such a southward spiral at South Carolina, because I feel like he was sincere. He was able to kind of get himself integrated into this program, and I just you wish the best for a guy like that.
The South Carolina Athletic Coaches Association Hall of Fame announced its new induction class. They'll be inducted July 22nd at a banquet in Charleston. And going in are Carol Lynn Avant, volleyball coach from Hillcrest, Steve Coley, late baseball coach and AD at Landrum, Mike Culp, women's basketball coach at Camden High School, also deceased, Dorothy Fortune, women's basketball coach at Lee Central, and Chuck Jordan, football coach and athletic director at Conway High School, just recently retired, all going into the Coaches Association Hall of Fame. Congratulations to them.
We'd be remiss to not also congratulate our colleague Phil Kornblut for being honored by the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame. He will be receiving the Herman Helms Excellence in Media Award for excellence and fairness in media distribution.
For 50 years in broadcast.
Feels like it.
He will be honored along with Tim Beret and Sam Weish, also among others.
Louis Osselman and Paul Kennemore. Yeah, I was going to mention all that. I was going to get to that, but as typical, you jump in and read my brain.
I didn't want you to have to congratulate yourself. That's a little gauche.
Did you ever think Kornblut and Herman Helms in the same sentence?
I mean, listen, I didn't know Herman, be honest with you. He was not gone in terms of life, but he pretty much retired by the time I came along. But I do remember his work quite well and followed it closely.
Congrats, Corn.
Thank you, man. Be right back. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Monday night from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, all together with you as we roll into another busy week. Clemson football practicing today. We'll hear from Dabo Sweeney coming up in a little bit. Right now, let's talk some Clemson baseball as the Tigers head man Monty Lee joins us after a successful trip up to South Bend. Have you defrosted from your 3 days in those icy conditions?
Well, it felt today, I think we were in like the 50s. It was a little bit cool here in Clemson, but mid-50s today felt like a heat wave after being in Notre Dame for this weekend. It was some kind of cold. We actually had to cancel the first game on Friday because it was in the teens. It was like 20-something degrees with like 25 to 30 mile an hour winds. And then even on Saturday, you know what, at game time, it was, I want to say at first pitch, it was in the low 30s with about a 15 mile an hour wind. So yesterday, first pitch, it was 30 degrees with no wind and sun, and it felt great. So it's just it's amazing how quickly your body will acclimate to the weather. But, you know, I give our guys credit for dealing with tough conditions that we're not accustomed to, you know, obviously because we're blessed to play in great weather in the Southeast. But, you know, I'm proud of our guys for being able to find a way to win 2 ball games in one day and win a series.
Yeah, on top of that, up at Notre Dame, you had the cold weather, not good for baseball attendance. And then, of course, their hockey team was playing for the national championships. So I'm sure the fans up there, the attention was diverted away from baseball, which kind of made for a kind of a different atmosphere from what you guys have been used to playing in.
Well, yeah, you know, I mean, obviously there's a lot of people there, you know, for the weekend for hockey. And I know on, I guess it was Thursday night or maybe Friday night, I can't remember which day, we all went out to dinner, and, you know, you could tell there was a buzz on campus and in town with the hockey team, you know, playing for what they were playing for. But, you know, I don't, you know, typically you don't pay too much attention once the game starts, as far as what's going on in the crowd. We're just trying to do everything we can to focus on, you know, what's going on between the lines. But they had a decent crowd each day in Notre Dame. And, they had a good club. They played good baseball. We were just able to pitch, a little bit better in the last 2 days, and we found a way to swing the bats. In game one, we actually out-hit them. Had better at bats. We just could not hit. Couldn't find a way to get a big hit with runners in scoring position in the first game, and that was a difference. But did a little better job of that in game 2 and 3, and found a way to win.
How much different, Coach, does Kier Meredith make your lineup? I know that you had him in the 9-hole to start the series and then let him off in the last 2. How much different does that make your lineup, and what is your plan for him moving forward?
Well, it definitely adds a dimension to our offense, a dynamic to the offense that we do not have. Kier is a true base stealer. He's a true leadoff type guy, a guy that can push and drag for hits, a guy that can really run, but he's also got some pop in his bat. I mean, he hit a home run and he hit a triple. So I want to say that Kier had 4 hits on the weekend. He hit a home run, a triple, a single, and had a base hit bunt. So he did some really good things. He also walked twice, and I think he got hit by a pitch. So he's on base, I want to say, like 8 out of 10 times. So had a heck of a weekend for us. He just adds a dimension that we don't have. I mean, he's, again, you have to do so many different things on defense to try to stop him. You got to pull the corner infielders in every time he comes up to the plate, which opens up holes for him. And it just puts a lot of pressure on you once he gets on the bases for what he can do on the bases. So we just got to keep him healthy. He's coming off of injury. He had a great first weekend. We just got to keep him healthy, and he'll continue to hit at the top of the order, until, we feel like we need to do anything differently. But my plan for him is to try to hit him up there at the top, because I just think it stretches our lineup so much more with him at the top, and gives guys, opportunity to really kind of play within their skill set in different parts of the order.
Your pitching coach, Coach C, is from Michigan, and he played in Ohio. Now, he had to have some special methods for your team, not only the pitchers, but the position players, to warm up in that chilliness over the weekend.
Well, obviously Andrew grew up in Michigan, coached and played at the University of Ohio. So, yeah, he definitely was much more accustomed to the cold weather, than we were. And I said, what do you do? Because I obviously haven't coached very much. I've coached in the Southeast my whole life, haven't played in a lot of cold weather games like that. And I said, what do you do just to try to, keep your guys warm? And, what kind of mindset do you need to have with the team? And I was expecting him to say, you just got to tough it out and gut it out. He said, no, honestly, it just sucks. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. He said, it's going to be cold. It's just going to suck. I mean, playing baseball in cold weather, nobody likes it. But, you just got to deal with it. But you just got to keep moving. Honestly, I had a lot of people ask me about it, and they said, were you worried about your pitchers, in temperatures like that in terms of getting ready and somebody, potentially hurting their arm? And actually, you're not. It's actually the opposite. You're worried more about the position players, because in baseball, you're standing in the dugout, sitting in the dugout, you're standing on defense until you got to sprint. And then when you get in the box and you hit a ball, now you got to sprint all of a sudden. So you really worry more about the hands getting numb, having to throw the ball. Our guys had a hard time throwing the ball just because of the blood flow. And then when you run out of the box, you worry about somebody pulling a hamstring or a quad or something of that nature. The pitcher actually stays fairly warm because he's moving, pretty much every 15 seconds.
Talking with Monty Lee, Clemson baseball coach. Tigers going to North Augusta tomorrow to play Georgia, a much improved Georgia team, a team that's very much in the race in the SEC East. And what are your pitching plans? What do you expect to see from Georgia's pitching plans, as well as your take on Georgia overall?
Well, Georgia has got a really good club. It's the best club that Coach Strickland has had since he's been there, and they've done a great job this year. And, they're going to start Tony Losey, who we're very familiar with, having recruited him a little bit out of high school. He's a big power arm right-hander. He runs it up there in the mid-90s. I mean, he's got a power arm. So we got our hands full there. They got a really good offense, a number of guys that are pretty hot. So, but we're gonna go with Spencer Strider. We feel like Spencer, deserves another opportunity to start after the start that he had against Coastal Carolina last week. So we're going to go with the true freshman and Spencer Strider, and feel really good about Spencer. And Spencer commands the ball, commands the fastball. He's got a power arm too. He'll run it up there, 95, 96 at times. So Should be a great crowd playing in the new Pro Park there. We're the first game ever, which is pretty cool to play right there on the Georgia-South Carolina line in a brand new park against Georgia. I think the game sold out in like 2 hours. So, I mean, it's going to be a heck of a crowd there tomorrow night. So we're really excited about playing a high-quality opponent in a great atmosphere and a great ballpark. It should be a lot of fun.
So you're going to play in Athens next Tuesday. So this is like your home game for Georgia, but you're playing it at this more or less neutral site. I'm sure there'll be more Tiger fans and Georgia fans there. What was the thinking behind doing that? Just an opportunity to go into a beautiful new pro ballpark?
Well, they actually approached us about it, and it's been in the works for quite some time. They approached us about really wanting us to open the ballpark and play Georgia there in the ballpark. They felt like it would be a great opportunity to kick off a brand new stadium and a lot of fan buzz. And even though we had to give up our home game here at Doug Kingsmore, which, you know, as we all know, you don't ever really want to do. You don't want to give up a home game, but we just felt like it would be a great experience for us and for our fans. I mean, one of the things that's very, very important to our baseball program for me as the head coach is that we showcase our team across the state. And that's one thing that we haven't always done, you know, probably quite enough, is showcase the team across the state. All of us as head coaches want to play at home as much as we can, but, you know, that's why we're playing in coastal Carolina. You know, that's why we've tried to go down to Charleston and play in Charleston, and we're playing in Augusta. We try our best to showcase the team across the state of South Carolina, to give fans the opportunity to see our team play if they can't make it up here to Clemson on a regular basis. So that's it's just one of the things that we're trying to do to show our fans across the state that we appreciate them. We want to try to bring the team around the state, and it's a great experience for our players too. So you know, overall, it's just a good thing for us to do.
All right, Monty, thank you, my man. Good luck tomorrow night. We'll be right back.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Okay, we're back in Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Thanks to Monty Lee for being with us. You know, the Tigers taking care of business as they move on through this season, and Georgia tomorrow night. That's a good RPI game, something that'll help you down the road if you can get the win. Either way, Georgia or Clemson, either way in terms of the postseason scenario of being able to host not only a regional round but a super regional round. That, of course, Clemson has been in that position the last couple of years under Monty. They have not gotten over that hump to get to that next round. That's something that would be a goal for this year, and of course to move on farther than that. But you know, getting Kier Meredith back healthy and into the lineup, that's like a midseason trade. That's like picking up a bonus baby right there, because he was a very highly touted guy coming out of high school with a lot of skills. And you can see the immediate impact he's making to their lineup.
I found it also interesting, his response to the reasoning behind playing this game versus giving up the home game. I think, you know, like you said, you kind of protect those home games like they're precious gold and precious metals. And the fact that that they feel confident enough in their group to be able to go into what should be a very raucous, and while I know that there'll be plenty of orange, there'll also be plenty of red.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the situation that we run into with the South Carolina-Georgia rivalry, the fact that there's always a lot of red on one side, there's always a lot of garnet on the other side, and I expect this to be no different. And I think, you know, this is something where this is a big test for their ball club, and I think if they can at least get the first half of this and come back after this pair of 2-week Tuesday matchups with at least a split, that's more than a moral victory and a big victory for that ball club.
No, you're heading down tomorrow to cover that game. You'll be with us on Sports Talk. Have you taken a look at any sort of a diagram of the stadium to get a feel for it?
I've looked at they have a little webcam on their website, just kind of looking at it, and I know that some of the surrounding stuff around the ballpark is that they're going to try to create a little bit of a kind of almost kind of like a faux town, kind of the way that that Greenville has done with the West End with Fluor Field. So they're kind of trying to create some of that. A lot of that stuff is unfinished yet, but it looks fantastic. Lots of covered seating for people, so it should be nice, and weather should cooperate as well.
Where's it located exactly?
It's literally just off the river. It's right there in North Augusta. So they're going to try to kind of create a little bit of a riverfront type atmosphere.
Now, it used to be single A for the Red Sox, but it's the Giants now.
Yes.
Hasn't it shifted to the Giants?
Yes.
Okay.
It literally is right on the river. I mean, you can't. You basically you look out over the edge there and you see the river. It's fantastic.
All right, look forward to you being there and bringing that to us tomorrow night here on Sports Talk. Coming up, we'll hear from Clemson football coach Dabo Sweeney. You had a couple of notes from practice today.
Adam Choice and Tanner Muse were banged up, missed today's practice, but Dabo said that they should be back for the spring game, and he also offered a bit of a challenge for the fan base. He said he really hopes that the crowd shows up, because when they don't, they put it all over the internet and make fun of you, which
free
kind
pizza
allowed us to kind of
pizza.
Almost lament about how much the spring game has been, pardon my comment, bastardized over the last couple of years.
I mean, let's face it, they use the spring game to they're not making any judgments on players in the spring game. They just don't want to get anybody hurt. They use the spring game as more fodder for recruits. Hey, look at this. We draw 60,000. We draw 80,000 for our spring game. See how much they love football here. And if you don't draw a big crowd, then it ends up, like he said, on the internet. And the fans, they like to pile on and use it against you when it comes to their conversations about recruiting.
I thought it was ironic that South Carolina had a pretty nice warm day for their spring game on March 31st, but then this weekend a few SEC teams had their games, and you saw people bundled up.
It was snowing in Arkansas.
It was chilly.
I watched some of the Auburn spring game, and I got to tell you, I mean, Auburn's a talented football team, but the spring game looked like crap to me. It just looked boring, and they didn't do anything on offense or defense outside their base. And I mean, it's just a chance for the fans to go tailgate, get in the stadium, show their support, and have some recruits on hand, and hope that the crowd is big enough to impress them.
Pick up a donor or two.
And why the 7-on-7 to start things off? What was that?
Well, that's the That's football of the future. No kickoffs, no punting, no running game,
No football.
Hey,
7-on-7.
I'm a fan of no kicking. That's you know me. I'm a big fan of no kicking.
No kicking in terms of
Anything.
no field goals.
Nothing.
Nothing, huh?
I hate kickers.
No, you're kidding.
I hate kickers.
Well, South Carolina would say with Debo Samuel standing back there in the end zone, you want him to kick.
All right, let's do recruiting. And we lead with news on a kicker. No, I'm kidding. We begin tonight with quarterback Tayshaun Fomachanan. I never get that right. Fomachan. I always put an extra syllable in there. Tayshaun Fomachan, Avon, Connecticut, who's checked out several schools in the past couple of months, including USC and Clemson. He was in the state in the same week to see both in March, and he is interested in both. Likes the tempo, he said, of the USC offense. Clemson, he said, he loved the family atmosphere, and because he's very close to his family, and he likes what they do on offense. He says they use their quarterback to throw and run, which he does well. 2,253 yards passing and 25 touchdowns last season, 663 yards rushing and 17 touchdowns. He's also been to UConn, Georgia, Florida, Florida State, and Penn State. He plans to visit LSU, Michigan, and Alabama when they can get the dates set up. Fomachan said he would like to make his decision in June. He does plan to sign early. He's not sure yet if he will graduate early. Also, Sam Howell, the quarterback out of Monroe, North Carolina, announced on Twitter earlier today that he will have an announcement tonight at 7:30.
He announced an announcement.
He announced that he's having an announcement, or as he put it, a big announcement coming at 7:30. We can only assume he's announcing his commitment decision. Clemson has been strong on him. Florida State has been strong on him. He's visited Tennessee, West Virginia, Ohio State. So these are all some of the schools that he has been considering. North Carolina has been on his short list as well. And he's a guy that Clemson has been targeting as their quarterback. I guess their number one quarterback target for this recruiting class. So we'll find out from him coming up at 7:30 tonight exactly what he has in mind. All right, let's see what else we've got for you. USC recently offered defensive end Adisa Isaac, 6'5", 215 out of Brooklyn. He's a sack master, had 12 sacks as a junior. Rushing the quarterback is what he does, and that's why schools like him. Alabama, Texas A&M, Arizona State, Boston College, Tennessee, Florida, LSU, Michigan, North Carolina, Penn State, Pitt, Central Florida, Virginia Tech, they've all offered. He's got an official to Texas A&M April 14th. He's been to Syracuse, Penn State, Maryland, Michigan, Rutgers, and Boston College. He has talked to Lance Thompson and Will Muschamp at USC, and he said he'll get down to see USC at some point. Defensive lineman Kalijah Cansey of Miami was at USC for the spring game. He's been favoring South Carolina. That continues to be the case after coming in for the spring game. He talked to Muschamp, and he talked to other defensive coaches, including Travaris Robinson. He said they did not push him for a commitment while he was in for the spring game. That was not discussed. However, he said he still considers that the Gamecocks want him and would take a commitment if he decided to make one. His next planned visit is to Louisville this Saturday for its spring game. Linebacker Keith McGuire of Malvern, Pennsylvania, has rescheduled his visit to Clemson for this weekend for the Tigers spring game. And let's see here. Spring Valley defensive back Jalen Geiger was at Kentucky Saturday. Texas A&M grad transfer defensive back Nick Harvey was at Auburn over the weekend. He's also been to USC. First Baptist running back Michael Dukes was offered by Oregon. Clemson in the top four with linebacker Jalen Scott, Shelby, North Carolina, with NC State, Duke, and North Carolina. Linebacker Spencer Lytle, Bellflower, California. Offensive lineman Andrew Kristofic, Gibsonia, Pennsylvania. They were at Clemson Friday. Dorman receiver Jacoby Pinckney was at Georgia over the weekend. He also went to Oklahoma, Wake Forest, and Virginia Tech last week. Got a Clemson baseball commitment and some basketball news coming up. Be right back.